Hi guys. Listen, I'm really sorry about this week, and I'm really grateful to Sandy for doing the presentations the other day. I hope you guys learned from that process. It's really important to listen to what other people have to say about your videos and also sort of examine your own videos. So for that, project, I need everyone to go back to their discussion page where they posted their video and type in, literally cut and paste it over your 200 word synopsis of how you thought that project went. So, for instance, what you're going to do is you're going to uh, take the notes that you talked about on the screening and then go in and type in, okay, I made this choice because of such and such a reason. I used this shot selection for that. I chose to use a long shot or mid shot. In this shot, I said, well, I'd like to get a close up of this, and they went with the wording, the script I chose, all the different reasons you chose to do it. Don't literally tell me, well, I woke up in the morning and I shot this at 10 o'clock in the morning. I don't care. Just give me the meat and the bone. Okay. So for this next project, we're going to be dealing with Premiere Pro. Sorry, Premiere Rush. And in lieu of us actually getting our hands in and out of that program, I can't do that from here. So what I'm going to do is deal with the theory aspect of the next project, and the next project is a bumper trailer. Okay, I have a couple of demos that I can show you, but first let's just deal with what I was dealing with. Okay, what the project is at hand. Okay, and the project at hand is basically a 30-second bumper for an imaginary TV show. Now, I'm going to give you some cool footage, some HD footage, about 30 different clips, and the probability is in a 30-second clip, you're going to use about at least 15 clips, at least, probably. Think about how many seconds a cut, probably more than, or maybe 10, at least 10, or it depends. But think about the amount of seconds something stays on the screen. So for this, I'm going to just sort of go over this Prezi that I would have done in person. It's kind of this pretty fantastic that I'm able to do this. So the first thing we should do is literally talk about what's expected. The edit and title should introduce the viewer to the themes and tone of a fictional show. Students should be mindful of font design and how that might contribute to meaning of whatever font. And you're going to put in fake names, and I'll show you what I did. Okay. In addition to editing their final piece, students should post the video on YouTube and accompany the video with a coherent logline. Now, this Prezi, I had a lot of kind of cool things, sort of a historicity of font design and how it sort of started. Artists preferring monostroke letter forms or characters with small serifs, and what they look like in the past. I'm not going to go over that with great detail because I've only got 15 minutes. I may have to split this video into two because it's a 15-minute timeline on Screenomatic, and I may have to post part one and part two. But you need to watch this video as I go through this Prezi and give it context. So as I said, font is something that is, I think maybe hopefully Sandy might be able to do this on Thursday with you guys. I'll give her you notice and I'll talk to you. But this may be in lieu of class on Thursday. But look, guys, if you do this, if you don't have class on Thursday, you need to be working on this because I have a discussion forum that you'll have to respond to with homework. I'll get to that in a second. So these are some old fonts. That's Cabinet Dr. Caligari. That's the old school. It's re-upped in a more sort of modernist perspective. And you can see there's two different types there as well. That's kind of cool. Annie Hall is a classic sort of um, um, an example of just sort of minimalist design that sort of permeates into the 60s and the 70s. These are some font designs for context of what has been out there for the last while. Take a look and recognize it. So it is good to get in there and start to recognize what fonts to use, because your font does say a lot about your character, your show, right? I mean, it can show power and strength. It can show strangeness or oddness. It can show weirdness. It can be sort of very bold and kind of pop culture-y, and so on and so on. Minimalist with the reverent, and then this is almost very technical CSI, as you can see, and so on. Okay, and massive influences are Saul Bass and Ferreira in this. Now, this is one thing that I love is as far as intertextual references here. This is credits for To Kill a Mockingbird. This was re-upped by Cameron Crowe's Almost Famous. I'll just show you a brief couple of seconds of this at the start. And why I show students this at the start of a to talk about opening sequences is it uses images as a way to give the audience a context of what the story is going to be about and about the context of who's also telling the story. Now, as it opens up here, you hear a kid humming, bum 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 bum, and they're taking crayons out. Crayons sort of signify a child. They're writing out the text of the film, which is To Kill a Mockingbird, and in scribble. Then you see all these little cool items which have some significance to the story. A clock is owned by it's a watch, hand watch owned by the father. All these little things have play some significance as the story goes. So there are all these massive close-ups and a track of all these cool little objects that signify childhood, signify the kids' lives and so on and so forth. And at the very end, you see him, the kid, tearing an image of a mockingbird, and the premise of the film is to kill a mockingbird, which is a sin, and the film is about the great injustice. Okay, so it's a really beautiful opening sequence. Have a look at it. That's the thing. Just do because it'll give you some ideas on how we use images to signify meaning. This is a great example of how to use font from Saul Bass. Oh, look, it's really loud. And this was from Hitchcock's uh, North by Northwest. Very stylized. This was re-upped by Kunitz in Kunzel in Catch Me If You Can. So very influenced by Saul Bass, just to show you how fonts have sort of played a significant history in film and where we borrow from the past and so on. This is a really lovely use of font and design, graphic design for a film credits for a film called Thank You for Not Smoking. And what they were doing is re-upping these old cigarette packet designs because the film is about smoking. Okay, now this is an important video. It's 15 minutes long, but I want you to watch it because it's important for you to understand the context of how show designs and bumpers have graduated and I guess into the present day. And this is a really important video that will give you context and give you some definitely some ideas for your own project, and it'll explain how and what a lot of shows do today in order to kind of to give audiences a context of what the show is going to be about. Talks about stylization. It talks about the use of image to convey meaning. It's a fantastic video essay. You need to watch this video. I'm not going to play it right now. This is some of the examples of shows that I show that it's short and sweet. This is from The Walking Dead. Obviously, with this, the music is heightened. But with this, similar to what you saw with even the To Kill a Mockingbird, these images have a context on what the story's about. There's a lot of shutter cuts, a lot of shuttery images, and a lot of layering of one image over another. And I'll show you how to do that next week when we're in class through Premiere Rush. It's very easy to stack images on top of other images and get those shutter effects and so on and so forth. But that's a cool one. Obviously, watching that little clip, you'd say, okay, I kind of have a context of what that show's going to be about. It's about zombies. This is an absolutely gorgeous one. Oh crap! It's I'll change the from that. It's about a show called in the night of, and again it's every sort of image has sort of a context, the night of HBO intro. Let me just show it to you really quickly. This is gorgeous. And the show is a detective show, sort of about a murder. It's in a big set in a big city. A cab figures largely in it. Drugs figure in the murder, and it's a murder mystery. And all these type of jazz. So what you're seeing is all these mysterious, layered, and lovely composited images, should I say, Jesus. And it shows sort of examples of what the context of the show is about. There you see, oh my goodness, it's a murder, it's a hand with blood, and it's all black and white, very stylized, except for a discordant color scheme here, which is really cool, and then a discordant color scheme which is there, which is blood. And we'll talk about stuff like that. So, you guys are smart. Have a look at these, get some influence. That music is just so sublime as well. And it's obviously these images sort of exemplify the crowded nature of the city, the I guess you would say the sort of the imposing nature of a big city. So it's gorgeous and it's very in light of the tone of the show. Okay, this is another one that's a great example, and you talk about this in the video essay. This is very attitude, very like imbues a lot of attitude, a lot of iconography of the South, kind of these flashes of church and religiosity, of civil rights. To show the True Blood is set in the South. The music is definitely an indication of that. Some of the landscape is, and so on and so forth. It really gives you a feeling of what the show's about. You see some some Southerners there and so on, and there's obviously it's about sex and it's got a lot of attitude. So the color schemes are kind of exemplifying all of that, but very odd and weird, and a great trailer. Now, these three trailers I want you to examine. I've left it. I want you to go through, and you're going to go through the Jessica Jones, you're going to go through the Marvel, and you're going to go through Daredevil, and you're going to point out what images, iconic images, they're showing you that somehow are giving a clue to what the show is about. So, for instance, I'll give you a start. You going here. This is Jessica Jones, Marvel, and it's rotoscoped stylization as far as the images. That means it's scratched. You can scratch over actual film. It's very quiet, it's very somber, it's very kind of mysterious. The music kind of sounds a little bit like the Pink Panther theme and so on and so forth. But the three of them are very different, all Marvel, but all very, very different. Okay, so what I want you to do is I'm going to put a discussion forum. I'm going to post these in the discussion forum, and I want you to watch these three and reply in the discussion forum what your attitude, what you think is sort of these are about. Okay, this one is Marvel's Luke Cage. Talk about the color scheme. Talk about what images you see. Do a bit of googling. Do it to Google and find out, what the show's about if you don't know, and see. Okay, that makes sense that they'd use that as an opening sequence because it's got images of such and such, images of such and such, the color scheme is such and such, and it makes sense, right? So you explain to me what these three are, and obviously you can kind of compare and contrast because tell me why they're different and how they're different. Okay, really important. So that's the log. That is basically sort of what you're going to do now. So for the actual show you're obviously going to assemble images that have some coherence to what your potential show is going to be about, but you're going to have to do a log line as well. Now, log line, as I said up here, your log line, in addition, you should type in your log line in the descriptive area for what your show is about. Now, I'm going to get cut off here, so I'm going to stop talking for a second. I'm going to post video explainer part 2. This should be written on your YouTube post when you export your little video. In the descriptive line, I want to see what your imaginary show is called, and you're going to actually type in what the log line is. A show about such and such and such and such. And I'm going to explain to you now what log lines are about in video 2. Okay, turn to video tune.